Hi, everyone. My name is Carson Tate, and we have a slate of awesome Bold Strokes Books authors here tonight, and they are all going to read to you from their latest work. And I'm just going to take a minute to introduce our panel here. We've got Georgia Beers, Morgan Lee Miller, Michelle Larkin, Jensen, and Tanai Walker.
Hi.
Hi. So we're going to start with Michelle.
Sure thing. So this is from Silver and Gold. It just came out today. And so in the scene I'm about to read, there are three characters. Are the main characters: Boston homicide detective Reed Silver and rookie detective London Gold. The new lieutenant forced Reed to take London under her wing and mentor her. The third character, heads up the Department of Children and Families in Boston. Now, Reed and London are hunting a serial killer. They believe the killer's identity is buried in some old files at the DCF office. But something happened between Reed and Wanda Alinsky about a year ago, so Reed's a little nervous about asking for Wanda's help. Wanda Alinsky led them down the hallway to a door at the very end, scanning the key card at her hip to unlock the door electronically. We call this our smash and bash room. Workers in this office see things no human should see. As a result, we experience all the intense feelings that go along with that, including anger. Rather than stuffing it down, I encourage all workers to come in and let loose at least once a week. We keep a sign-up sheet outside. No one's usually here at this hour, but the day is still young. Reed looked around. The room was large with 4 distinct stations. Each had its own punching bag, and what was that? She stepped over for a closer look. There, staring back at her, was a life-size cardboard cutout of her. It was riddled with holes. What the hell is this? Is there a problem, Detective Silver? That's me. No, Wanda shook her head. You must be mistaken. It sure the hell is. Look. She stood alongside the cutout of herself and assumed the same pose. Wanda stepped over and frowned. It does bear an uncanny resemblance. Uncanny resemblance, my ass. That's me. She glanced at the punching bag on her right and realized a paper cutout of her head was pinned to the top. There are several cutouts from which to choose. Wanda pointed to a bin alongside the punching bag. But yours is definitely the most popular. Turns out beating you to a pulp or aiming slingshots at you is very therapeutic. You admit it then. She set her hands on her hips and turned to London. Is that even legal? I admit nothing, Mrs. Alinsky stated. Only that I had to do something to keep my staff from seeking revenge on the officer responsible for their near-death experience. That was an accident. How was I supposed to know those pies were loaded with laxatives? Full disclosure would have been nice. Something along the lines of, "Hi there, Mrs. Alinsky. An ex-con just got sprung from the joint and gave me these lovely apple pies. Right then and there, I would have told you to shove them where the sun doesn't shine." She crossed her arms and addressed London. Instead, she lied and told me she baked them herself. No way, London said, looking horrified. Way. London gave Reed the evil eye. You should be ashamed of yourself. You can't be on her side, Reed said. You're my partner. And she never said sorry, Wanda went on, still fuming. No note, no phone call, nothing. Karma, London said, raising an eyebrow in Reed's direction. Fine, maybe I should have called or sent flowers or something. You think? Wanda gave her the most intimidating stare down she'd ever received, nuns included. Shaking her head in apparent disgust, she turned to London once again. You two are partners? London nodded, unfortunately. Hey, I heard that. Was this the same woman who'd made passionate love to her the night before? What the hell was happening here? And I imagine you'll benefit from a pass at the punching bag. Don't mind if I do. London slipped out of her coat and draped it over a nearby chair. Wanda bent down and plucked Reed's likeness from the bin. Full body cutout or just the head? She asked, holding each one up. Ooh, definitely full body. London allowed Wanda to slide boxing gloves over her hands, then turned to Reed. Can you please take my firearm? You want me to hold your gun while you beat me up? London nodded happily. Sighing, she lifted London's sweater, unsnapped the leather holster, and withdrew the clock. I'm sure there are cutouts of other cops in that bin, too. Aren't there? She asked, hearing the note of desperation in her own voice. Nope, Wanda replied, lips pursed. Just you. Reed humbly took a seat. She watched, mesmerized and a little unsettled, as London landed powerful blows and quick jabs, one after another, to the paper cut out of her.
That was awesome. I'm sad that we were all muted because I was laughing.
Thank you, Georgia.
Giggling very much.
Thanks.
That was great. So did you hold up the book?
I did.
Awesome. Let's do that one more time. Silver and Gold. You can go buy it now.
Yay.
All right. So next, Tanai, would you read for us?
Yes. Okay. Well, today I will be reading something that I'm working on. It's my work in progress, the sequel to my novel, Rise of the Gorgon. It is tentatively titled Curse of the Gorgon. And in Rise of the Gorgon, it is about a reporter named Elle, and she finds herself while investigating the death of a soldier. She finds herself immersed in this world of espionage fueled by mind control, and I was kind of inspired by MK Ultra and the conspiracy theories that came to be true. So this is chapter 1, and it starts with the second main character, Cass, who is also the spy with the code name the Gorgon. Chapter 1, Security Defense Collective Headquarters, Almaty, Kazakhstan. The darkness of complete stasis. To her brain and body, it was more familiar than sleep. Inside of the upright pod, she floated, suspended in a metallic gel that kept her body at perfect temperature, a buffer between her body and any stray stimuli. Black tape covered her eyes for good measure. Various tubes snaked through openings, bringing her oxygen via a mask that covered her nose and mouth. Nutrients, along with a cocktail of sedatives and psychoactive drugs, passed directly into her veins. In the pod, her consciousness folded in on itself, an Ouroboros feeding on the fuel of its own destruction, while simultaneously existing to feed. In theory, there was to be no coherent brain activity. In theory, she suspected that they knew she had learned to beat the process. She would have never been able to betray Flora and escape Olympicor without breaking the thrall. She would have never been able to slip the yoke and switch sides if her mind had not been able to hold on to something to sustain it in the raging darkness. That something was the one sole determination not programmed into her mind, getting back to Elle. Elle. The few memories she had of her burned intact with such permanence that nothing could ever swallow them up. She had favorites, of course. Elle in that black bikini pressed close to her, smelling of salty sea air, murmuring sleepily into her ear. Her laughter as they sipped forbidden alcohol in Kuwait. There were memories of Elle that broke her heart, like the night on that airstrip after escaping the madman Lyles, neither able to comprehend why it was so hard to part ways. Her memories of Elle, besides the one of this awful place, were the only ones she owned. They brought her comfort as she struggled with the SDC agents, whose task it was to sedate her and prop her up on the platform base of the pod. It was Elle's face that she thought of when she succumbed to the drugs as the agents sealed the pod. her touch that she held on to in the close panic moments when the metallic gel dropped from above, filling the pod until she was completely submerged. As the prop sank away to leave her floating, it was Elle's voice that echoed in her head long after the darkness had taken over. Those memories allowed her to hold onto a shred of consciousness. Until that moment, the prop rose from the platform, hooking under her armpits like crutches to hold her upright as the gel began to drain from the pod. She could feel her mind returning as she felt the tingling in her limbs. The cooling gel clung to her like a fatty carapace, causing her skin to prickle. She heard the door of the pod slide open. Someone removed the tape from her eyes, and she squinted at the overhead lights burning as bright as torches. She heard their buzzing hum, exaggerated by the drugs that lingered in her system. As usual, the agents handled her with a clinical disdain, if not rougher than usual. She could hear the soles of their shoes on the concrete floor as they moved about, removing the tubes and finally the face mask. She breathed in the chilly air of the lab, but continued to keep her eyes shut from the stinging light. Are you with us?
Wow, that was great.
Thank you.
Keep writing. When are you going to be done with that?
Hopefully soon. I keep rewriting.
I'm familiar with that.
But that seems a keeper.
Definitely. So Rise of the Gorgon, this is the sequel to that.
Yes, Curse of the Gorgon.
Awesome. So Rise of the Gorgon's available now, and it's on sale in our flash sale. Thanks very much. That was great.
Thank you.
Morgan Lee Miller, would you read us a story, please?
Of course. So I'm going to read you my newest release that came out in June. It's called All the Paths to You, which is a sequel to All the Worlds Between Us. So some background, it's about Quinn and Kennedy, and they were childhood friends. They lost touch. They dated in high school. They decided to make a pact that after college, if their paths cross again, they would try their relationship again. So I'm going to read a scene. It's 5 years after high school. It's my accidental alternate reality because Quinn is going, she's a swimmer. She's supposed to go to the Tokyo Olympics. So let's just pretend that the Tokyo Olympics are happening. It'll be a nice little getaway from what we're living in right now. So I'm going to read the scene where they meet up for dinner for the first time. Kennedy stepped through the entrance and my throat caught. The hostess gestured to me and her eyes found me instantly. Her smile grew as she walked and my legs melted into my seat. I swear the whole time she weaved around tables, my body thought it was getting ready for a workout from the rush of adrenaline and the sweat on the back of my neck. I stood to greet her, but the words died on my lips. Hi, I said, but it felt as if the words carelessly spilled from my mouth. Oh my God, wow, were the first words she said before holding her arms out for a hug. When she broke away, she held me in front of her so she can get a better look. She scanned my face and then my body, and a long and careful examination sent a potent shiver down my spine. Her glance had a bit of hunger in it. I wanted her to stare at me like that for the rest of the evening. Damn, you look amazing, she said as she took her seat. You look like you're ready to kick some ass in Tokyo. Oh, I feel like it, I said, straightening my back and doing a facetious hair flip. She continued to take me in. Is there any fat on you? I think all the kale made sure I had minimum fat. Could explain all the pizza cravings I've been having. She noticed her drink and grinned. Oh, you weren't lying when you said there was a drink waiting for me. Don't get too excited. I have no idea what you drink these days. She took a sip, then followed it with a wince. Seriously, Quinn? After all this time, the power of her saying my name still did wonders to my insides. What? Out of all the drinks you could have ordered, you got me a Captain and Coke. She shook her head, hiding a budding grin behind the rim of her glass as she took another sip. In spite of all the advice I gave you, you still haven't ditched the satchel purse. I gestured to her large handbag next to her feet. It screams Captain and Coke girl to me, just like your red Jetta. Hey, I love this purse, and I love that Jetta. You love it more than hooking up with women? Her cheeks turned a deep shade of pink. At least we were probably matching now. It didn't ruin my chances by that much. Oh, really? I rested my chin on my palm. Please go on. She laughed and crossed her arms. I'm sure you would love to know. Gotta loosen me up a little more to get that dirt out of me. Well, then let me get you a stronger drink. Let me get you another drink, maybe a stronger one. That's not even fair since you're not drinking, she pointed to my lemon water. Can't get me liquored up for juicy info when I can't do the same to you. It's for a gold medal, Kennedy. Now tell me what you want. Apparently the right answer was a dry red wine. She let out a gasp and pointed to the menu as if I knew exactly what she was talking about when she said the restaurant had her favorite Petite Verdot. She laughed when I told her I'd never heard of that wine before. Whatever the glass was, I forced her to order it. Are you a sommelier now, I asked. Not in the slightest. When I studied abroad, I spent a long weekend down in southern France because my girlfriend's aunt had a place down there. We went to a few wineries and this was the best I had. Was it wrong of me to question if she meant girlfriend as a lover or a friend? Because I did. I threw my hands up. Oh, you went to southern France and acquired a taste for red wine. So fancy. Are you mocking me? You set me up for it. Jetta owner Kennedy Reed, a French wine connoisseur. Glenn Hughes, a two-time Olympian. I guess a lot has changed since the last time we saw each other. What was it, 2 years ago? Yeah, I think so. That dinner back in Aspen Grove. Yeah, that dinner. She said it as if the moment in the car sprouted in her mind, and she too was imagining the kiss that never happened. She blinked rapidly as if to tear herself out of the memory. And now you're traveling all the corners of the world. My entire devotion to swimming is solely based on frequent flyer miles. Who cares about the gold medals? I wouldn't. Those sea upgrades are key, especially for overnight flights. So how many gold medals do you have now? 13 gold, 8 silver, 2 bronze, and only 1 Olympic medal. But since then, you've become a 6-time world champion. Oh, wow, you really kept up with my career. Of course I have, she said casually before taking another drink. I've known you since I was 7. I dated you in high school. I was there when you decided that you wanted to go to the Olympics. Why the hell wouldn't I keep up with you? God, I was already in so much trouble. Everything was still there. Nothing had changed from high school. If anything, I felt a stronger pull. No other girl had been interested or could keep up with my intense love for swimming. And there was Kennedy, sitting back and cheering for me from the sidelines like always. I don't know. It's a lot to keep up with. Not for me. I think it's amazing. You've grown so much since high school. Now you have 5 events in the Olympics. You're moving up in the world, Quinn Charlotte Hughes. I'm so proud of you. I waved her comment as the warmth spread over my face and down my spine. My wide smile almost felt traitorous, ignoring the signals my brain let out. Despite being on good terms with Kennedy, I needed to have my guard up, knowing how much damage she could cause if something prompted a sharp twist in the night. Ever since she sat down, I'd forgotten that it had been 5 years since we were something, because it felt as if no time had passed at all. Okay, you remember when we were 11, the Beijing Olympics, she asked. So much happened that summer. I remember sitting cross-legged, inches from my TV, sharing a big bowl of popcorn with Kennedy in my basement as I fixated on swimming, explaining everything she needed to know about the sport. I told my parents the following week that I wanted to try it for London in 4 years, and they gave me this look like I was crazy. That Olympics, I told Kennedy that one day I was swimming for Team USA. She was the only person who didn't laugh or doubt my ability. Instead, she smiled, held my hands, and said that when I made it, she would be in the front row wearing a t-shirt with my face on it that said my best friend. So yes, I did remember the Beijing Olympics, all too well. I remember, I said, and how I told you I would wear a shirt with your face on it. There was a tug in my chest. She remembered too. God, I wanted so much for that to happen. During the trials for London, we hadn't been talking. At Rio, when I swam in the relay, she had sent me texts, and although they were sweet and made me smile ear to ear, it wasn't the same as a shirt in the front row. I wondered if she would accept a plane ticket to Tokyo. Would that be too much given the fact that we hadn't seen each other in 2 years? Would that distract me too much? Would that set me up for getting my heart broken if she didn't feel the same way about keeping the pact we made? Because wasn't this dinner, post-college, in the city I'd been living in for 5 years, a sign of our paths crossing and that we were destined to be together?
That was great. Captured a lot of angsty nervousness. Good job. Good job. So hold those covers up again. Awesome. All the paths to you. People are saying they love the first one and they need to read this one. So that's great. Great news. So Jensen, will you read us a story?
I don't know about going after that one. I was so angsty when you were reading, Morgan. I was fidgeting and twitching. And yeah, it was great.
Just have a Petite Bordeaux or something.
No, right?
No. I don't know that wine either.
No, it was great. I'm going to read your book now. So my book, The Politics of Love, is my new book, and it's about a democratic socialist and a Republican, right? And it asks the question of whether or not, in these polarizing times, it's possible for two people that different to have a relationship, or what it would even mean. I started writing this in like 2018 before the world got really crazy. So I don't know if it was, wisely timed or not. But the character I'm going to read to you about right now is Shelley. She is our conservative Republican who was raised evangelical. And she is in Manhattan. It's about the midpoint of the book. And it's where I think that she reconciles her own relationship with God, right? And her sexuality. So Shelley stepped from 30 Rock. A rainstorm stopped just a few minutes before. She waited in the dressing room and watched as the water cascaded down the sides of buildings, pounded awnings, and flooded the streets. Pedestrians scrambled under umbrellas and huddled together in clumps as they waited for lights to turn. From her perch above the noise, Shelley found it peaceful, even soothing. Though she knew the moment she stepped from the doors onto the street, the cold water would seep into her shoes, wind would sting her skin, and the rain would bounce from the umbrella with loud claps of sound. So wisely she waited. The storm had been torrential, but not long-lasting, and the water already ran into the sewers. Her flight to Phoenix was not leaving until the next morning. She talked with Rand, told her she was going to explore, now longing for her swelled inside. She thought about Rand's presence next to her, and she wanted it all the time. She liked how it felt. She wanted Rand, but she still wasn't sure Rand wanted her. Every new encounter with Rand awakened more feelings, and she was too in love to be terrified of them. Shelley wasn't young and had known enough mental illness to understand the truly transitory nature of life. Deep inside, Shelley felt some caution, but chose again to ignore it. She was too engaged in the sensation of loving Rand that a normally conservative nature sublimated itself to her emotions. She could only hope Rand felt the same, and that thought buoyed her through the worst moments of anxiety and uncertainty. It was a miracle, Shelley thought, to be in love. She stood on the sidewalk, smiling up at the sky between buildings. A woman looked at her in the disinterested way New Yorkers observe each other, half aware of the other. Shelley ducked her head, momentarily embarrassed by her behavior, and pressed forward, wandering from block to block, the chilly, humid air a welcome respite from the scorching, dry heat of the desert. Rand bought her a pair of AirPods, an unexpected gift before she left. When Shelley asked her why, Rand said, "It seems odd you have no headphones. I mean, who doesn't have headphones?" Shelley slipped them from her pocket and put them in while she waited at the light on 8th Avenue and 31st Street. Madison Square Garden was in front of her, massive and forlorn, wet from the rain. She always thought the building looked sad. She opened Spotify on her phone, another new discovery via Rand, and chose a shared playlist list. She wound down the busy streets around the square, crossed another intersection, turned a corner or two, not truly watching, just exploring, and then stopped, drawn forward by wrought iron gates in a courtyard. A statue of a saint stood in the middle, surrounded by the dark brick of the buildings on either side. New life sprouted on a bush, light green buds against the dead, oppressive concrete of the city. Silence descended as Shelley stepped into the courtyard. The cacophony of Manhattan receded behind her. She walked towards the statue, St. Francis flocked by animals large and small. There was pressure in her chest, and momentarily she feared a heart attack, remembering how her appendix had turned on her. But then, as the pressure mounted to a culminating peak, it dissipated, sending hot tendrils of energy through her arms and body. Shelley thought the absence of sound was evidence of her impending demise. She took 3 steps forward, looking for somewhere to sit. Rand's favorite music still played in her ears. A family had commandeered the benches in the courtyard, and so Shelley stumbled inside, into a beige hallway, downstairs, through other doors that opened into a chapel. There were rows of dark wood benches that matched the deep hue wood on the walls. She removed her headphones, and the silence swallowed her, and she stumbled to sit down on a bench toward the back. The stained glass windows were beautiful. It was St. Francis again, surrounded by animals similar to the statue in the courtyard. She focused on the sheep, she didn't know why, and tried to count but was not able to do so. Her mind spun too quickly. Anxiety crept through her body like the coffee grounds she'd accidentally dumped across her kitchen floor the week before. She leaned heavily against the back of the bench and held her hands in her lap, putting her bag to the side of her. She interlaced her fingers, struggled to ground her emotions. When she realized she was not going to be able to control the outcome of what was happening to her, she did something she'd never done before. She let go of her urge to try and rested her hands on either side of her body. A sob bent her over and she covered her mouth. She cried silently in the back pew, tucked away from the world, and then the chorus began to sing, Vespers. Light filtered into the underground chapel, and a brilliant ray of light lit the middle of the church. She closed her eyes, wiped at her tears with the sleeve of her thermal, and set her glasses on her knee. When she opened her eyes a few moments later, an older woman was sitting next to her. The woman smiled and took her hand. She wore her black hair close to her head, and her dark brown eyes twinkled with warmth and kindness. She patted Shelley's hand with one hand, held it with the other, and then released it. Crime to cry alone. Go then, get it out, she said in a deep Southern accent. Struck with the simple kindness of a stranger, Shelley continued to cry as the chorus filled the silence and the light moved through the chapel. When she was finished, as the chorus left, she became aware the woman next to her was gone, and she turned round and round to find her, but wasn't able to do so. Shelley's mystical experience rendered her helpless. Control was stripped away, her capitulation demanded. Her despair grew stronger, overwhelming. It was then that she felt that the world was gone and that only she remained. She imagined the universe, the vastness of it, and believed she stood alone in it. Everything around her slipped away like a tablecloth in the magician's trick. The universe she was capable of seeing disappeared. She was swept under, her will was nothing, and she didn't even fight. There was no resistance because there was nothing. Shelley was suspended somewhere outside of time and space, where all is nothingness. The force was immense, the weight of it intense, burdening, and in it she felt a moment of terror. She could not comprehend what had captured her, could not find the thoughts to understand what was happening. She was awed by a presence that overtook her, and it was the awe that made her tremor, shake, and feel weak. Then as suddenly as it came, the terror was replaced by an immense peace, a knowing that the struggle means nothing, that life and death mean nothing. Her fear was stripped away, hesitation, doubt, all gone, all removed. Shelley dwelled in knowing. There was no fear left, and because there was no fear, no despair. There was nowhere left to go. There was nothing to lose because nothing was ever lost. Life didn't end with death, but continued in different form, the universe infinite, full of joy, love, and possibility. Shelley settled, freed from her contact with the divine, and wiped her face. She climbed from the stairs with more awareness than she descended them. In the courtyard again, the normal sounds of the city returned, and she wondered where they went when she first entered the space. She stepped from the courtyard onto the sidewalk, and the courtyard and the church faded from view. She stopped to look behind her, but the iron fence around the courtyard didn't look as welcoming as it did when she first saw it. The space wasn't as illuminated as it first was. The sky was brilliant blue above her. A taxi driver honked in the street. Someone yelled. Tourists laughed. A baby cried. She counted 16 bricks below her feet. Shelley wanted to find a Starbucks for coffee and a bathroom to rinse her face. A strange peace descended upon her, and inside new thoughts organized themselves around understanding born during a visit with St. Francis in a Christian church. The irony of her encounter didn't escape her, but it felt nothing like her father offered. This felt like God should.
Wow, that was really beautiful.
Thanks. Thank you.
So hold up your book again. That's The Politics of Love. That's a July release, available now.
Absolutely.
And very interesting subject and very timely. So who's left?
Who is that?
Who's left?
Save the best for last.
Georgia Beers, will you tell us a story?
I'm tired.
She just came to hear stories, not tell them.
I just wanted to be a spectator. Yes, I will read you a story.
Thank you so much.
From Hopeless Romantic, which comes out this month. It's available now at the Bold Strokes website and everywhere else, I think on the 11th of August. This is a story of a divorce attorney who is a hopeless romantic and a wedding planner who no longer believes in love. I've read this scene once before, so if you've heard it already, I apologize. This takes place in the shop of the wedding planner. The wedding planner's name is Teddy, and Kelly Scott is the one who's getting married. Kelly and her big sister Leah are sitting down for their second meeting with Teddy to go over some details. Teddy and her assistant Preston are both there. It's been pretty well established that there is an attraction between Teddy and Leah. They've only met once, but it was pretty obvious that they both felt it. So this is the second meeting, and we are in Leah's point of view, and she's now taking the opportunity, as any good woman-loving woman would, to look this time a little more carefully. Teddy was beautiful. Leah took in the ivory sweater dress that Teddy wore, a classic contrast to her olive skin. Gold bangle bracelets jingled softly when Teddy moved her hand. Her hair was down, a soft brown that looked like it might be a shade darker underneath. Subtle brown eyeshadow accentuated the deep dark of Teddy's incredible eyes, and her full lips shone with the glimmer of a coat of lip gloss, just a hint of pink. And it wasn't odd at all that she noticed Teddy's impressive posture, right? Her spine was straight, her shoulders squared the whole time she spoke, twisted, moved her arms. Teddy wasn't tall, but she seemed it. The way somebody carried themselves said a lot about them, Leah's mother used to say, and nobody in her recent memory illustrated that point better than Teddy Baker did. Her presence said, yes, I'm attractive. I also run this show, and I will snap you like a twig if I have to. Leah felt the corners of her mouth tug up at the thought. What are you smiling at? Kelly's question took her by surprise, and Leah sat up a little straighter. Teddy's eyes were on her as well, and Leah swore she could feel them straight down to her. I'm just happy to see you happy. She pulled an answer out of her ass so fast that she even impressed herself. Teddy's gaze stayed on her for an extra beat. It did things to Leah. Shoulder bumps were Kelly's signature move of affection, and she leaned into Leah with one. Can you give Teddy the deposit? Oh, of course. Leah fished her wallet out of her purse and pulled out her Visa card. Preston took it from her hand, slid it through the square he'd plugged into his tablet. Leah Scott, he said, as he watched the transaction on the screen. Your name seems familiar to me. Pretty common name, Leah said. She's a lawyer, Kelly piped up, pride in her tone. Oh, yeah? Preston turned the tablet around and pointed. Just sign here with your finger. What kind of lawyer? Leah signed, hit the green button that read done. I'm a divorce attorney. A heavy coffee mug has to hit the ground just right in order to shatter. And Teddy's apparently had, the sound of the crash startling the other three enough to make each of them flinch in their seats. Leah's head whipped toward Teddy, who sat wide-eyed and seemingly shocked, a Rorschach ink blot of a coffee stain blossoming on her beautiful ivory dress. Oh my God, are you okay? Kelly sprang into action, her kindergarten teacher reflexes kicking into high alert, as they did any time something was spilled or broken. Teddy stood slowly, head down, her focus seemingly on the puddle of coffee and the pieces of mug scattered across her hardwood floor. I'm fine. I'm sorry. Clumsy. She pointed over her shoulder, blinked several times, never meeting Leah's eyes, then turned on her heel. Preston, set up the next appointment, would you? In the next couple of seconds, she had disappeared into the back. A full 5 seconds of silence passed before Kelly and Leah exchanged looks. Is she okay? Leah asked Preston, whose head was turned towards Teddy's exit. I'm sure she's fine. He turned back around. Uncomfortable. It was the only way to describe him. Let's get your next appointment on the schedule. 10 minutes later, Leah and Kelly stood at Kelly's car. That was so weird, Kelly said, pulling open her car door and slipping inside. Right? Such a strange reaction to a broken mug. Leah looked back at the storefront. Do you think she cut herself? Or she's allergic to divorce attorneys. Kelly chuckled and started the car. As if sensing Leah's confusion, Kelly said, that's when she dropped the mug, when you said you were a divorce attorney. With a snorted laugh, she asked, you didn't handle her divorce or something, did you? Leah blinked at her. Kelly's smile faltered, no longer lighthearted. You didn't, did you? Leah wrinkled her nose and shrugged. Is she divorced? I mean, I guess it's not out of the realm of possibility. Oh, great. Kelly let her forehead fall against the steering wheel, then immediately lifted it up again. Well, we've paid a deposit, and she's the best in the business, so let's hope if you did, we can all just remain professional. Yeah, okay. She got me, Leah. Pleading her case, thrilled and happy, excited anticipation. Leah loved seeing those things on her sister's face, hearing them in her voice. She got everything I mentioned. I felt so comfortable with her. I know. I don't want to unhire her. Then we won't. We'll work it out. Don't worry. Words she'd said to Kelly their entire lives, and she'd always made it so, no matter how much of a pretzel she'd had to twist herself into. She always worked it out for Kelly. Kelly held her gaze for a bit. Okay, I love you. Love you too. Leah slammed Kelly's door and watched her pull away. One last glance at Hopeless Romantic. No Teddy standing in the window, like last time. Well, that's a damn shame, she muttered, waiting an extra moment or two just in case. Then she turned away and headed toward her car. She had information to find.
Hopeless Romantic, available right this second. And we've got some time for questions, and we have some questions. So unmute yourselves and let's do this. So this is for all of you. Which book of your own would you recommend a reader first read if they haven't read your books before? All of you have more than one book out, so I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this. We'll start with Morgan.
I would recommend All the Worlds Between Us, my debut, which also goes with this one.
Excellent. So you should probably just go ahead and buy them both, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the second, like the third one too. Just
go ahead and pre-order.
Buy them.
Michelle, how about you?
You know what? I missed the question because my oldest was about to eat a very loud Rice Krispie treat, so I had to say.
I would like to eat a Rice Krispie treat.
Are there extra Rice Krispie treats?
Yeah.
Do have a few, yes.
You really shouldn't bring them if you didn't intend to share.
So what was the question, Carson?
That's okay. Which book of your own would you recommend a reader read first if they have not read any of your books before?
They're all so different, I think. So I don't know how to answer that. I would say probably I would say Silver and Gold, the one that is just being released now. I really have no reason for saying that, but
Yeah, you do.
Just throw it out there.
The new baby's always
the Rice Krispie treat, so it's fine.
exactly. Jen, so I'm interested to hear your response to this question because both your books are very different from each other.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think that I would recommend James Bachman, Ghost Hunter, right? They're the only two that are published right now. I have another one coming out later in the year too, but I would definitely recommend that because people either really love Politics of Love or they don't. It's one of those subjects that's dicey. So I would say I would rather you read James and like me and then read that book and keep my other book. Yeah.
All right. Tanai?
Well, my other published novel is Sacred Fire, and it is a paranormal romance. All the good old esoteric stuff I like so much.
Yep. So start there.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Georgia, pick one of your dozens of books that people should start with.
You know, I have trouble with this question, and I'll tell you why. And I don't know, Carson, if you have the same issue. But
sure,
I've been doing this for a long time, and I feel like as I go on, I get better. So I always hesitate to send people all the way back to the beginning because I don't want you to read that because I'm so much better now. You know what I mean? So I kind of tend to go back like halfway. Although if I do go all the way back, I would say Too Close to Touch is a good one to start with because a lot of people seem to like that one.
So pick two. Too Close to Touch is your early work. Pick something from your later catalog.
Maybe Blend.
Okay.
I think Blend's a good place. That's the wine book. I lovingly refer to that as the wine book.
It is
brutal on that one. Brutal.
Well, there's lots of Petit Bordeaux, I believe, in that book.
Petit Verdot. Carson.
Whatever.
Isn't it, Morgan?
No, I've never had it.
It's a red wine.
I know this from all of my research.
So I'm going to toss this out to the paranormal folks on the panel. Well, kind of. So Jen, this question is originally for you. Was it hard to write a paranormal book and then a contemporary book? And will there be a sequel to James Bachman, Ghost Hunter? And I guess I'll just throw it out there to all the paranormal folks. Is it hard to write that and something else too? But we'll start with Jen.
Yeah, it kind of is. I think that it was it's easier to write paranormal because if I run into a roadblock, I can have something magical happen, right? So, right, you have so many more plot devices available, I think, that I'm learning. But it is a bit of a shift in thinking, and but I won't say necessarily that it's harder. It just, I think that there's you have more tools available, at least for me, I think, in writing something like Seamus Bachman, Ghost Hunter. And there will be a sequel. It'll be out next May, as soon as I finish the manuscript that's due on September 1st. But I'm in the middle of writing it right now. And I just got the cover, actually, and it's really cool. So I'll post that on social media shortly.
That's awesome. Tanai, how about you? I mean, both your books are kind of in the paranormal setting.
I think it would be hard for me to write anything else. Like, I couldn't write like a straight romance. I just have to have something weird or crazy going on. It just wouldn't make sense for me.
I'm leaning toward some fantastical elements. I feel like I could do so much more.
Absolutely. It's easier
Michelle,
sometimes.
all your books have am I right that all your books have a slightly paranormal edge to them?
So I think out of the 4, 3 do.
Okay.
And I guess it was the second, Unexpected Partners, had no paranormal. And the one I'm working on now has no paranormal. But I really like fluctuating between the two, to be honest. I don't find it that difficult to adjust. There definitely are, more pathways with paranormal. But no, I like going kind of back and forth.
Okay, so she likes to switch it up. If you could co-write a book with another author, who would it be? Jen.
Wow, who would it be? I don't know. I mean, can I go out there and say like Stephen King, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I think so, man. Stephen King or J.K. Rowling. I'm gonna aim for the stars.
Okay, Michelle, how about you?
Oh, I would go for Dean Koontz.
Okay, that's a good one too.
Totally
Yeah,
see
he's my favorite. I wrote him a long time ago, and he wrote me back a handwritten letter. Really neat. I never.
And you've already co-wrote something.
Right?
You can publish a volume of your correspondence. Morgan, how about you?
I'm thinking.
Okay.
Get back to me.
Okay. Georgia, I'm picking on you now. It's me, right?
Well, it's funny because when I was looking at the Q&A box and when I saw the question, I assumed it was within our genre. So I have answers for both. Like outside of our genre, I would say Ann Patchett, but I think that I would just make her cry with my inability to be as good as she is. But I think if I was going to go in the romance genre, I would stick with maybe like Kristen Higgins, who I love, love, love her work, and Jill Shelvis, who I also love. If I was sticking in our genre with our people, probably Melissa Braden, because we write very much alike. But if I wanted to do romantic intrigue, Carson, I actually did think of you, because I'm like, you could write all the lawyerly stuff that I don't know, and like the mystery stuff, and then I know that you would rather write that than the romance part. So I'll write the romance, and you can write the intrigue, and it'll be perfect.
I feel like this is a thing that's going to happen. Tonight?
Well, my favorite author of all time is Thomas Harris. He wrote the Hannibal series.
Yes, those are so good.
Yeah, his writing is just so excellent. And then another one, I would say George R. Martin, but we would probably never get anything completed.
That's a great answer. Georgia, will you write any more romances that take place in the Finger Lakes wine country?
That's very possible. I mean, the place that I have set things that I lovingly refer to as not Rochester is not far from the Finger Lakes. So that's kind of where, I mean, most of my stuff is set around here, upstate New York, Finger Lakes-ish. So yeah, most likely.
How about Crushed? I'm giving you a book title.
Oh, I like it. Yeah,
Okay.
let's do that.
So go write that right now.
All right, I'm on it.
Okay. Yeah, I see. All right, so I want to ask you all, what are you working on now? What is there a book you want to write that's on your list? So what are you actually working on now? What do you want to write? Any dream book that you'd like to write? Morgan, did I get back to you on that other question?
I was hoping that you were forgetting.
I did not forget.
I was getting away.
Oh, let's get
This is from a clean getaway.
I'm sorry, but you're going to have to answer.
Okay, I'll answer. So if we're just talking overall, I do really love J.K. Rowling, just in the fact that she can build this whole world from her mind. I find that great. I can never world build like she does, so I admire her for that. And then within the Women Love Women, I mean, like I said in the Happily Ever After, my first Women Love Women book was Melissa Drayden, so I'm a big fan. Georgia Beers, another one. I mean, everyone who was on the panel yesterday, who I read, we have a lot of good people in Bold Strokes books, so I would be lucky to write with anyone.
I agree. You are all good people. All right. So, Michelle, what are you working on now? You alluded to that.
Right. So I'm working on a book called Secret Agent. And it's about, I'm so bad at explaining what my books are about, but
About a secret agent.
secret, right? She is a CIA agent and she goes rogue. And her name is Zoe Blackwood. So basically, she is trying to save the world from a virus. And believe it or not, this virus is global. And I proposed this book months before the actual pandemic hit. So go figure. But
Prescient.
right. So her handler is the one who's been assigned to track her down and bring her in. So they kind of have this cat and mouse game chase, around the globe, and it's very heated and pretty funny. There's a lot of humor in it too, despite a lot of seriousness. That sort of parallels what we're going through now.
Well, I can't wait to read that. I'm a big fan of Homeland, which rogue CIA agents, and that just ended. So be ready for your book. Pick up
I'm
that
binging
thread.
that right now, Carson. Homeland. We're binging that right now. We're on season 7.
Oh,
I
it's
Yeah,
so
that's,
good. So
that's
good.
a good one.
So, Jens, you alluded to you're working on something.
Jameis 2. Yep, it's called Origins. I'm working on Jameis Bachman book 2, and I started working on a nonfiction. Actually, I'm working on that as well right now.
Awesome. Okay, and Tanai, we know you're working on Curse of the Gorgon.
Yes. Also, I'm making notes. I'm trying not to start writing anything else. I'm making notes for a steampunk that takes place in historic Freedmanstown, which is kind of like an area settled by Blacks after slavery in Houston, where I'm from.
You've got some great steampunk outfits. I've seen them on Facebook. It's
Yeah, I'm kind of like a steampunk outfitter.
Yeah. So y'all should follow her on Facebook because totally great stuff. Morgan Lee Miller.
I'm writing my 4th book. It's called Before, After, Always. It's going to be a contemporary romance with angst, of course. So it's about the main character's name is Eliza. She went through a horrible accident when she was a teenager and meets the love interest named Blake, and who has also lost someone. So it's just about 2 women who have had great losses in their life, and then they meet each other and grow and share different outlooks in life and grief and all that good stuff.
So your books tend to be kind of new adult age range, or?
So yeah, I had my first one, All the Worlds Between Us, was young adult. Hammer, Strings, and Beautiful Things, and All the Past You were new adult. This is actually just going to be my first adult. So
you're growing up. Next thing you know, you're going to be writing senior book.
Maybe, yeah. I kind of want to go back to young adult, so maybe that will happen, but we'll see. I always change my mind.
Stay young. Georgia, you're always working on like 40 things, so.
Yeah, I've got a couple. So Hopeless Romantic comes out this month. In December is 16 Steps to Forever, which is about a commercial real estate agent who is kind of running from family issues and starts in a new city and finds herself drawn to the property stager that her real estate company uses to set up properties. And then also in December, I take one of the secondary characters from that book and put her in a Christmas novella that's called Triple Dog Dare, which is a little more of a comedic pretend girlfriend situation.
Awesome. Well, lots of great books on the horizon, lots of great books out now. Thanks, y'all, for joining us. Thanks to everyone who signed online here and on Facebook. And y'all have a great evening.
Thanks all you guys. Thanks, Carson.
Thanks, Carson. Great job, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.